Okay, what is going on with my hair? I don't know. When last we left off, we were just about to start with the motion picture. So we got, the Michael Eisner has approved. Good God, this is ridiculous. There, solves that problem. So Eisner's approved the script for. Hey, bro, all right. Has approved the script for In Thy Image as the template to which to make the motion picture. And it was going to be the first episode, so we're still the same kind of setup. Everyone, trying to bring the crew together and upgrading the ship. And the same plot of the old NASA probe has come back to Earth looking for its creator. We got to figure out what the hell's going on here before it's got to recognize what it is. So, then the process begins of trying to convert this thing. And they bring in Howard Livingston to be the screenwriter to convert this thing. But Roddenberry is the executive producer. He's got say over it. And he gets a little peevish here and there. He's putting in his own rewrites. And they're really not improving anything. It's like, Livingston had, go back in there, Roddenberry with a shit-eating grin. It's like, you don't piss on everything to make it better. It's like, just being a little snot. It's like, but, they're fighting away there, and also the process is like they've got everybody. And they signed everyone to pay or play contracts because back when they're still planning on doing the TV show, they haven't got Nimoy yet because he's still pissed off at that Heineken ad with kind of the last straw. It's been going on for decades. Well, a couple of decades. It was about 10 years since the end of the show, so it's been out for quite a while. But between the merchandising with Spock's face all over it, and he didn't get a penny, the final blow was the Heineken ad. Mainly because that not only was use of his image unauthorized, but it was also kind of blow to the dignity of the character. And he was very protective of Spock. He was very protective. So I was like, no, that's it. So now Robert Wise was not a big fan. He never watched the show. He's working. He'll be working. His wife and kids, though, were huge fans. And when they got to look at the script, it's like, where's Spock? It's like, well, we couldn't get Nimoy. No, you got to get it. You don't have Spock. You don't have Star Trek. And it's like, okay, take it from the fans. You don't have Spock. We don't have Star Trek. So we got to get Nimoy, one way or the other. I think it may have been Povil or Katzenberg literally getting on their knees in front of Nimoy in a restaurant saying, please come back. And it's like, Nimoy, you're out of your mind. But the pressure begins. Look, do you want to get this movie done? You better get Nimoy. So whatever he's asking, pay him. Settle this. We need him for this movie. And of course, the thing, what do you do with this character Zahn they'd created? And they got David Gautreau on a pay-or-play contract. It's like, do we bring Zahn in too and have two Vulcans? But no, it's too, already pitching penny, Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there, but okay. So they settle. Nimoy's getting a fat paycheck. Shatner's, of course, getting a fat paycheck. I think they're maybe in the contract. What one gets, the other gets. Everyone else is getting fat paychecks now, making up for the fact that they've been raking in all these residual dollars over the years, and these guys are having to work conventions to pay the bills. So everyone gets paid. Everyone's on board, and at one point, when they finally get them all on the bridge, Bob Weiss says, I just realized right now what it's like to be in the presence of living legends. So, yeah, we're going to do this. And so they're going along, and they're shooting the film. And, at this point, as far as the effects go, originally they did ask Doug Trumbull. Because he was working on the Paramount. I think his office was on the Paramount lot. So, hey, we got this guy here. But he had just finished up Close Encounters. He wanted to do his own stuff for a while. He wasn't ready to sign on for another big budget somebody else's movie. So but somewhere the recommendation was for Robert Abel and Associates. They made a bit of a splash because they're doing some commercials for 7-Up and Pepsi. No, 7-Up and Levi's. It was some very stuff. A lot of sparklers and stuff were flying around. Very, very late 70s, early 80s. And they So they got the nod with all kinds. And apparently, Bob Abel was quite a sales guy. He talked a lot. He talked a very big game. Oh yeah, we can do this. We all think. And Magicam was a part of it. They got involved in doing some of the stuff. And Magicam, if you're familiar with the show The Star Lost, from just a few years earlier, that one used Magicam a lot. I mean, but if it's something a little more seen, I also get used in Cosmos, where they got Carl Sagan visiting the library in Alexandria. It's basically a thing where you have the layout is done with all green screen, but you have steps in the match up with a miniature set. And computer controlling the cameras on both of them so it matches up. And when it works, it works. I mean, with Sagan at the Alexandria Museum, it holds up to this day. Even though it's on video, it looks perfect to this day. And that was part of the thing to work up, somehow work this in here. But they're going along, making a movie, and of course the various misadventures of making this thing. Will Decker was the only character that Bob Weiss had kept. Everyone else was already there. Even Precious Gambata, because he'd been in for. We'll get to that in a minute. But Precious Gambata had already been cast because you're doing tests for Phase 2. They hadn't cast Will Decker. And that's the one that that Bob Weiss had a hand in. And again, Stephen Collins, not a huge fan. He's probably aware of the show. He probably watched one, but he wasn't a huge fan. And he was a bit of an outsider. It was like he said he was always playing with somebody else's bat and ball, which helped the character because Decker was kind of on the outside. He wasn't part of the inner circle yet. And actually, in an interview with Starlight, he's the one who first kind of sneaks the little thing that they're not the happy family they pretend to be. This is before, because the whole thing of Shatner's an asshole and stealing land. That didn't start coming up until Star Trek V. When that one kind of shit the bed and everyone still felt okay, it's time to start bitching on Shatner. Before that, they were still promoting the thing. Oh, we all love each other. We're a big happy family. Collins first don't believe it. Let's see. Let's pull this one up here. Address this real quick. Well, part of it, because when they eventually have to come back, because when they get finished with principal photography, the only thing Robert Abel and Associates they had seen at this point was the big V'ger probe, which was the big blinding light that they dragged back and forth and kind of tried to do a split screen thing. Found out later why the distortion thing was like, because what they did was they filmed it. They just shoot with a mirror effect because it was what you're seeing is a sheet of Mylar shuts off with a thing, and they just flopped it so it looks like it's regular. But they pinched it in spots to try and do some things, and that's why the lines don't match up. I think nowadays you could probably fix that, but even when they did the re-edit, so I think, how does this not work? Well, you'd have to do a lot of redoing of scenes, whatever. I'm not sure how to line up, even if he did do that, but that's the only thing that they saw that they did. So they're getting through. And another problem is they're shooting. They didn't have a finished script. They had 2 acts of a 3-act play, and they're getting closer to shooting the final bit, and they're getting pages, new pages. They usually get like a couple pages and new pages a day, the different colors. They're having to invent colors because they're getting new pages on like an hourly basis. Things are changing. It's like, so the large part of like, why bother memorizing it? We're going to get a new page in half an hour anyway, so screw it. It was rather frustrating for all concerned. And going along, I mean, Weiss says, anybody got any ideas for how to end this movie? What are we going to do? Well, yeah, we got the V'ger. Now what? Apparently, Shatner had an idea that everyone loved. He can't remember, but he remembered telling Nimoy, okay, this, and then that, and then gets us there, and doing that, and then, okay, great. Let's go tell Bob Weiss. Okay, all right, fine. We go. Tells Weiss, loses a little bit of oomph in the telling. But it's like, okay, great. Let's tell Gene Roddenberry. So now they track down Gene, and now Shatner's doing his third performance of the day of this thing, and apparently might have lost a little bit of the energy there because Nimoy's like, Roddenberry's like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, we'll give it a thought here. Now apparently it didn't happen. So. Yeah, I think we might have to do an episode just on Sitting There Forever, because that one gets a little short shrift sometimes. And that one, apparently, Harlan had kind of made peace, and he made peace with Red Roddenberry because he was actually brought in at one point to make a movie pitch, the pitch for the movie, and they we're cool, we're fine. But when it came time to do the trade paperback, years after Roddenberry died, I think that reawakened a lot of the old anger. So even then, Harlan said, "Fuck respect for the dead. Fuck that. We're going to lay it out here." No, I do what I can. Okay. So apparently, John Polville was the one who figured out the final resolution for because at one point there's like there were storyboard thing where it's like V'ger brings back the 3 Klingon ships that he downloaded, but then starting and brought him, he re-res them. There's a fight and they got to separate the ship. It got weird. Apparently, it was Povil who got the idea of having V'ger merge with a human, merge with the creator, and become a new life form and off in the distance to explore variations of reality. And I was like, okay, great, go for it. And like, how brilliant the idea was at the time, compared thing, who knows? But it's like, okay, we can do that. Let's do it, and start charging ahead. And so they get, apparently Perseus Kambata, let Shatner said literally like 12 or 13 takes just for the second line. No, not exactly the beautiful woman, nice sweetheart, couldn't ask for release a person, couldn't act her way out of a paper bag. So. But they go along, and it's like, okay, principal movie's done. Principal photography is done. Jerry Goldsmith is being given just notes. He has no film. There's some raw footage, but there's no effects sequences going. He's kind of winging it on doing the soundtrack. Because normally, because they got a very tight schedule here. They are stuck with the December 7th release date. Weiss begs them, please, can you back it up? No, they have locked into that, and if they move that date, they're going to get their asses sued by the theaters. We've been promised a big budget Star Trek movie on December 7th. So, they, something that, Weiss had never released a film without at least one test screening for reaction, and so they can go back and tighten things up. Nope, we've got to put this on, and they come back, and it's like Abel has not been able to deliver one usable effect shot. And they've already gobbled up like $5 million at this point of the budget. And nobody's in the mood to play around at this point. They get rid of him. I think Weiss or something. I never want to see that son of a bitch again. They go back to Doug Trumbull, whose schedule is loosened up a bit here. And it's like, and again, this point, the studio's like, we got to get this film out. It doesn't matter what it costs now. Fuck it. You got unlimited budget. Do what you do to get this thing done. So bring in Doug Trumbull, and he goes to he brings in John Dykstra. Because Dykstra worked under Trumbull with 2001. That's all something not everyone knows. That's where he got started. So hey, we'll do the dry dock stuff, and they were something. You take this V'ger stuff. They split up that way. They were literally working round the clock. This wasn't like Star Wars where Lucas comes back from England and then they're sitting around smoking pot and not doing a damn thing. He has to take direct control. No, this time they've learned his lesson. They're working. They're literally working round the clock, 24 hours a day to get this shit done. They only got like a few months, and this is a very effective movie. And these things take a lot of time to shoot because you got to shoot the thing. You got to do the composition, and And this is, again, where they were doing, like they did with the first pilot. They're shooting, again, because the way they're doing the separations, because the ship has also got this very intricate pearlescent paint job. Gorgeous job, but that would be a problem in a blue screen thing where you're going to get reflections back on it. So what they did, again, like the original, shot it against black background, and then with the motion control there, they do it one pass where they're just black, and then another pass where they're in a big light sheet and just silhouette it, and that's how they get their mats to separate it. And when it works, it works. I think for the most part, they pretty much pulled it off. I don't think there's any scenes where you can see stars through the ship. So that's Trumbull's big thing. I'm not sure what Dykstra did. Again, Dykstra's doing most of the V'ger stuff. And huge, intricate thing where they're going. And thing is, they also have this smoke machine go. It's kind of oil-based. So they had the problem of they're taking the long tracking shots, and they're having people are on one end finishing the model while the other end is being melted by the smoke. I was like, these things did not survive well. But they're doing all that stuff, and the Energy Cloud was just a series of matte paintings, because Trumbull said it's one thing to write cloud, we know that what's it going to look like. Like, that went through a few things trying to figure that out. So you just don't want the ship just sort of going through a fog bank and boom, there we are. But they get this thing, and so literally they're getting this stuff for down to the last minute. It's like they invented new ways to get movie thing. Jeffrey Katzenberg is largely credited with getting the thing. He logged like a few hundred miles a day running between the Paramount lot to Apogee and other after the thing to get check on the various effects things, and over to Fox where they're cutting the they're recording the soundtrack. He's just looping all around LA all damn day. And there's when they finally get everything done and they're cutting there's literally a scene where there's a soundstage at MGM where they got all the film canisters lined up like little tombstones. And it's like, as soon as one comes, the reel comes out, drop it in the can. As soon as that can's up, boom, there's planes waiting at LAX to ferret these things out. Remember, this is 1979. Back then, you didn't have any kind of digital thing. It's all film reels. And at this point, a 2-hour movie, it's like 3 reels. 3 big jets, these things are about the size of means like tire, about the size of a tire, because a little thing here. And if you look at some movies where you'll notice a little white dot will appear in the thing, that's the cue for up in the projection booth. Start the next reel. So they'll have a couple of projectors up there, and bing, start the run, and so you never notice if they know what they're doing there. But they literally would just boom and boom off. Somebody would run the thing out to LAX or Orange County to get this thing on its way. And in fact, Robert Wise, under his arm, carried the film, still wet. He was cutting this thing into the last minute, and like the last ring put under his arm, carried him to the premiere at Washington, D.C. at the Air and Space Museum. Shatner, how is it? I don't know. They didn't have a chance to really get a good look at it. There was no test screening, so they couldn't test it. All it was just follow the sequence. Okay, scene, effect screening, hope the hell the timing doesn't, all that, and the temporary effects, And they premieres, and of course we go nuts as fans because it's finally live action Star Trek for the first time in 10 years. But they're already getting the jokes. It's called the slow motion picture, where Nomad had gone before. It was derivative of Changeling a bit, but it did make a ton of money. It was one of the biggest money makers the Paramount had, period, especially in 1979. But it was one of the biggest money makers the studio had ever had, period, for quite a while. And remember, this was, comparison-wise with the JJ Trek film, adjusted for inflation, it took a while for JJ Trek to overcome the total that motion picture racked up. And also, JJ Trek was in 3 times as many theater screens as the motion picture was. The motion picture only came out in like 1,000 theaters. JJ was in 3,000 theaters. And it still took a while to catch up on the thing. So that I cover this in the Campia thing where the movie look like much more than they made. Yeah, back then when Star Trek Motion Picture came out, a movie ticket, evening movie ticket, was like $3. Matinee during the day was $1.50. Compared to when JJ Trek came out, and that was $15-20. You got to take into account inflation because that where you figure out how many butts and seats you're getting. So we got a few questions here. Yeah, they were. It was definitely going because again, Roddenberry was calling the shots here, and he wanted to show, yes, we can do the high level sci-fi stuff. It's not necessarily just complete space opera. Now, let's see what we got here. Negative impact of the type of science fiction. It has to be shoot them up in space, and you can't ponder the mysteries. Well, it's also a thing. Which is, Star Wars and Star Trek are two different animals. Star Wars is space opera. It is it's a space fantasy where you're attacking the castle, rescuing the princess with the old wizard and the smart ass, errant knight. Let's see. I'm not sure about that point, but they did what they could. Yeah, basically the final budget of $44 million, and at that point, the most expensive motion picture ever made at that point. I think the only one that came close was like Cleopatra, and that damn near killed the studio. I think Columbia made Fox, but that was because they were a little irritated at Roddenberry, so we're attacking on the costs, all the development and costs for Star Trek Phase 2 and the previous attempts at movies. So that the actual cost of the motion picture itself was maybe $20 million, probably closer to 15. But they blocked everything else on there, so they were going to cover that. But it made the money back, and it did cover the cost. It took a while, but it was one of the biggest money makers of '79. So they couldn't argue the fact, well, the fan base is there. They will support this crap. But we're not going to put up another one of this idiocy with Roddenberry. So we're going to make another one, but we ain't doing it with him. But we got to keep him around because the fans will go apeshit if we don't have him there in some capacity. So they came up with the post of executive consultant, where he would still get everything. He'd see all the things. He'd be able to offer notes on what he thought was right and wrong. But the producer was under no obligation to listen to him. And they generally didn't, for the most part. I think a few points are okay, well, for the most part, they didn't really pay much attention to him. That irritated him. That's why he sometimes with Star Trek 2. We'll get into that right now. Nice little jumping off point. Bringing in Harve Bennett. Now, Harve Bennett had a bit of a history of the Roddenberry because back when they're still trying to get Star Trek sold, Roddenberry's also shooting other pilots. It was something called The Long Hunt of April Savage. It was a Western with Robert Lansing that would have gone. I think actually sold. I think for ABC at that, but something happened and it never took off. Never got made. But Harve Bennett was the guy from that ABC sent in to find out what the hell's going on with this pilot, because Roddenberry wasn't talking to him. And so, find out what's going on there. And Harve Bennett shows up, and Roddenberry has him thrown off the lot. It's like, so right there, a little history there. Oh, dear. And now Bennett's the one calling the shots and ignoring Roddenberry. But during the interview process for how to get Harve Bennett, what Harve Bennett would do, and they asking him questions of how would you approach this here and this, and one of the execs, but another movie, can you make it for less than $44 million? And Bennett looked at it, for that much money, I can make you 10 movies. Like, you're hired. And then Bennett did, the smart thing. He wasn't a big Star Trek guy. At this point, he's working. He's working for ABC. I think he was involved with the Mod Squad, and they're directly competition with. He has no time to watch TV at that point. That's the thing. Most people, they're working. They're either shooting the show they're on, or they're doing promotional things. They ain't got time to watch other television. That's like sometimes like a movie set is sometimes like you have no idea what's going on in the outside world. There could be World War III going on out there. You didn't have a clue because you're shooting right now. So Harvey comes on and he screens all 79 episodes of the original series. I don't think probably didn't bother with the anime at that point because it was already starting to be memory hold a bit. And the little dangling thing of Space Seed got, hey, why don't we, revisit to see what crop of this seed is planted? And so, okay, we started working on, story for that. And now we got to get a director. And here we bring in Nick Meyer. Nick Meyer had only directed one movie to that point, Time After Time. He had written the 7% Solution, freaky. He had written, the Sherlock Holmes movie, 7% Solution, because he's a huge Sherlock Holmes. He's part of the Baker Street Irregulars group. In fact, interview with Mission Log, they talked to Curtis Armstrong, and he was going in front of Harv Bennett, but Nick Meyer for something. And on his resume, he mentions, remember, Baker Street Irregulars. And Nick Meyer comes from around the table, puts his arm around the people. You don't know how important this is. What it means to have those little, BSI level, labels, letters there. That kind of won him over right there. That fellow diehard Holmes fan. Now we'll get to those guys later. And we're getting to the movies. So we got Nick Meyer's on board, and he layers the naval stuff on because he figured we're sort of a Horatio Hornblower type thing, which he didn't know that's what Roddenberry's based it on. But because he's like, I'm thinking Horatio Hornblower in space, and Shatner, that's what Roddenberry's done too when he started. But he took the naval stuff and just layered it on with a trowel. It's by his own admission. And that's kind of where you got the monster maroon uniforms, because they really stomp it into the round. Like, this is the high seas, yo ho. The only thing missing is the big hats, but. And again, I'm still of mixed mind. I didn't really like the uniforms. I thought that's a bit much, Roddenberry said it looks like a Student Prince, musical, But going through, but they make it, and they manage to, it makes slightly less than the motion picture, but it costs a hell of a lot less because it's not being saddled with all those other development costs. They've got all the sets already. All they got to do is repaint them. The only thing really that they did was new uniforms, some new effect shots with the ship. But even then, they still used a little bit of, some stock footage from the first movie, like leaving space dock, a few flybys. And probably, getting Ricardo Montalban to come back. And that one was a bit of an adventure because, he'd been doing Fantasy Island for a few years, and he was intrigued by the revisiting Khan, as he was like, but he wasn't sure he could get back in that mindset. And there's one where he's running through the lines, and I guess videotaping himself, but but plays him back. Oh my! In his worst fears, he sounded like Mr. Rourke. It's like, oh God, but. Thankfully, along with the script, they also sent a videotape of Space Seed, so he could go back and watch it and say, okay, that's how and get into it and get tapped into Khan again, and with the added thing of like, okay, take this Superman and then you twist him a bit based on just what he's been through in the past 15 years. His wife dead, his people thing, the entire planet is trying to kill him because SETI Alpha 6 blows up and screws up everything, and he's blaming Kirk for everything at this point. So that's what Khan's a little nutty at this point. He was an egomaniac before, but now he's a nutty one too, and that kind of builds And Roddenberry was not impressed with the script. He really didn't like the way, that when the SETI eel dropped out of Chekhov's ear, they had Kirk zapping it like a little lady stomping a spider. It's like, that's not the character we built up all these years. And he said that Ricardo Montalban saved their ass. He did such a performance. He managed to save their ass because otherwise the really cheesy dialogue, searching around the rooms and nibbing. It's like, really. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, they're definitely going for that. The Harv Bennett, really plugged in the whole concept of it being a space opera. That's really got in there. And of course, it's also originally, that's the old thing. The title was The Vengeance of Khan, and there's a few surviving bits out there with that on it. The Vengeance of Khan. But at that point, the third Star Wars movie was coming out with the title supposedly of Revenge of the Jedi, and studio heads being kind of pinheads of even didn't want the confuse the audience. Like, we know the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars, assholes, but did not look like one's ripping off the other. They said, okay, well, the Wrath of Khan, there we go. But it didn't matter because the final title was the Return of the Jedi, so fake out. Which supposedly the original title way back when Lucas was doing it was Return of the Jedi, but someone saying, no, we need something a little more punchy there, and so for a while it was Revenge of the Jedi. But then the fans going, revenge is not the way of the Jedi. So, okay, yeah, see, I told you, back to Return of the Jedi. No. Yeah, that is a thing. It's like, the fact they only, on a review screen, they never were in the same scene together, physically. But they kept going there, So, 2 comes out, fans go nuts. Again, not quite as much close, but not quite as much as the first movie, but a hell of a lot more profitable because it didn't cost as much. And as far as killing off Spock, I mean, one of the things to sell Nimoy coming back was, how'd you like to do it? I think it's Harv Bennett, or how'd you like to, how'd you like to do a good death scene? And it's like, well, yeah, it's been a while. I think maybe it's time to put the character down. So we can move on. But during the course of the movie, they start, getting grumblings because the words were leaking out that they're going to kill Spock. They slightly psychotic fans taking out full-page ads in Variety saying, if you kill Spock, we're going to do this. It's like, come on. And that's kind of what that opening scene on the simulator, where everyone seems to die, that was to kind of fake them out a bit. So, that's what okay. Get everyone to a false insecurity. So by the time when it really does happen, it's like, oh, shit. But as during the course of making the movie, they started thinking, do we really want to kill them? Because Nimoy, they were having fun here. I don't think I'm not sure they're ready to hang it up just yet. And so, kind of on the spot type thing, or during the course, they made up on the movie. It's like, let's figure out some way so we can, maybe bring him back if this really works out. And that's when it's like, in the engine room scene, and Nimoy, he ducks decal. It's okay. Before I do, I'm going to lay this little mind meld on and say, remember, and say. And Deacon, you're coming back, aren't you, son of a bitch? So Gig was up at that point. But does that, we'll figure out what it means later. Just something to hang a hat on there. We'll do something. And they do it, and they film it. And this time they get a test screening because they're not under quite as big a thing. ILM did the effects. I think so. There wasn't any hang up of an unproven thing. No, we know what we're doing. We've done this shit before, and we got stock footage from the first movie, so we're fine. Put the movie out, but it's like without the scene on Genesis. It's just Spock's die, shoot the coffin out, goes on. And while fans loved it, but it's like they were, and Bennett noticed it. It's like they're leaving a funeral. Like, these are not people that are going to come back and see this over and over again like they did the first movie. So we got to do something, or this will be the death of this franchise you're building. And that's when they went back against Nicholas Meyer's objections. I think Nick still has a problem with it because he's like, no, it's fine the way it was. But they went back and did some inserts of the scene with Spock's coffin. They soft landed on Genesis. So they leave a little bit of hope. Don't just leave to He's dead. Oh my God! It's like, like there was a couple of cartoons in Starlog back in the day from Phil Folio talking about how showing this girl, he loves Spock and everything else, and she's modeled her entire life on it. And now she hears that Spock's going to die. I hope it doesn't. And then she's got axes and pulling all this stuff around. I hope it doesn't die painfully. She's going to fall through. But another one where people are talking about, Spock's going to die in a noble sacrifice. And they're like, oh, come on, they're going to do it. And they cut to a scene of Nimoy in the office with the script. I particularly like this part where he arrives on the third day. So, but then we go through, okay, it comes on, make all the money. So now we're working on 3. And here we get into the thing of Nimoy wants to direct. He'd done some stage stuff, maybe a little television, but he wanted to try his hand at directing a movie. He felt he'd log in enough time. He knows the material. That's good. And we get a problem with nobody's approving it because the agent's we're still trying to hear back from him. Finally, Nimoy phones up Michael Eisner, still head of Paramount, that what's going on here? We got to get moving here. We can't proceed. But I can't let you direct the movie. Everyone knows you hate Spock. It was a deal and tried to get him killed. And it's like, Michael, my contract for the movie is in the building you're in right now. You can have someone get out and read it. It was never a part of my contract that Spock die. I'm not going to, we're one of this thing to actually bring him back for God's sake. Yeah, I'll take your word for it. Okay, we're fine. And they got moving, got this thing time, and they got moving on it. But a lot of it went back to that book he wrote in the 70s, I Am Not Spock. It's like, it really wasn't. And his agent warned him, if you really want to go with that, name another one big hit with a negative title like that. How about Gone with the Wind? Okay, fine, smart ass, have it your way. And then they came out, And really, that book is not. He makes it quite clear he loved the character of Spock, great, and the opportunities it provided him. But he wanted to say that he is not just the Spock guy from Boston. He had brothers, Spock at that point, only child. He's not an alien type, And talking about his career going through. But that book caused all kinds of problems. But once they got that going, then it's like, okay, making the movie. And again, by this point, one of the things they also did was they put the movie away from the motion picture division, which was the case with the first movie, and gave it to Paramount Television. Had them handle the thing because they know how to work on a tight budget and schedule. Whereas the movie version, it's like, yeah, they were able to defend themselves against Gulf Western when they came in. So yeah, we got to drag this out, and we can't do this. Well, TV said, watch it. Well, let's see what we got here. I think I maybe already covered this. Well, I think they wanted to make a big splash there, but also it's like they needed some proven professionals in the field that could do it. And again, Dykstra worked for Trumbull on 2001, so they knew each other very well. But 3 comes out, and 3 I think had the most feel of the original series, where they had that kind of, and the character thing, but also just the pacing and stuff felt more like a later modern day episode of Star Trek. It's like, okay, now we're back in the milieu, And again, Nimoy, he wasn't there most of the movie. He did one to the later bit there where he finally shows up. Otherwise, you got kids dressed up as Spock and everything. I'm gonna say, as far as the thing about, Kirstie Alley, let's kind of that real quick. She was offered considerably less for 3 than she had gotten for 2. And she was actually a little bit more of 3 than she was in 2. So she took that as, well, you don't want me that bad. So that's when she said, screw yourself. And she'd also been getting other offers, like this show Masquerade on ABC that ran for a bit. And there's also, Kirstie Alley was a fan from back in the day. She used to pretend to be Spock's daughter. So, and so Savick was close enough, go for it. But again, they offered her considerably less for 3 then she got what she got for 2. So screw you. That's what you think of my work. I'm out of here. And then brought in Robin Curtis, who was not a fan at all, but she was like, tell me, what am I doing? So she was totally open to Nimoy's direction on how to do it. So, but going along, it's like Nimoy is on his back most of the time. He's only in the very tail end when Spock is back. But also when they make it, and they know their big party trick is blowing up the Enterprise. That's going to be our big shocker in the movie. Well, lo and behold, the ad department, pinheads that they are, we put the most exciting moments in the trailer to get them in there. Well, yeah, they include the ship blowing up, with the announcer going, and witness the final voyage of the Starship Enterprise as this burning Hulk goes by the camera. And Nimoy's ready to strangle him. Because you just gave away our big, we're trying to make an exciting trailer. No, you gave away the plot twist, and you sons of bitch. But it's out, it's too late. And you thought the fans went nuts over Spock dying? They went crazy with the Enterprise going up. Because even Nimoy never could understood. The Enterprise is really a character in her own right. So to see her go down, and there's no coming back from that. I did have a short story I was working on to do that, though. It's kind of convoluted and probably doesn't hold up, but it's like it was an interesting attempt, I think. To have the Enterprise reconstituted them. It's kind of it's weird. But there, we'll just get them a new ship and be fine. It's like, because the idea was to put them on the Excelsior when they got everyone back home and clear charges because they just saved the world again. Put them on the Excelsior. That didn't go over well. The Excelsior was not well loved. Okay. And that's when you had, okay, fine, well, another Enterprise. Okay, just slap an A on the end of the restriction. It's okay, there. You happy now? But that's kind of jumping ahead to 4. And that's Nimoy again, but this time he was actually in it most of the movie, so that was another challenge for him. But I think the whole thing, part of with the headband covering the ears, was like, I guarantee you, it was so he wasn't in makeup all damn day doing the stupid ears. So I think if you look carefully when he's got the hang on, there's no points underneath that. It's regular ears. Just had to worry about the coloring and the eyebrows, and we're done. Now, I've heard different things about, with 3 regarding the scene in San Francisco where Uhura and Chekhov are trying to find their way to Alameda. I mean, the way it was supposed to go is like, the people are going by, the cop was looking at them like they're nuts, like some guy with a Russian accent wondering where are the nuclear vessels. And some lady out walking her dogs just sort of comes around. Excuse me, we got a nuclear vessels. Oh yeah, I think that's over in Alameda, over in the nail base in Alameda. They walked on. That's what I said, Alameda. They weren't expecting her to respond because they're supposed to be walking by, no one responding. But she just walked up and but they seem so nice. Now Nichelle Nichols told it like they shot it 5 or 6 times. She kept talking, but I think I'd give more credence to Walter Kennedy's like, no, she just somehow got by security and was walking her dogs, and that was a mad dash to try and track her down and sign her to a contract for the day so they could use the scene. No, that scene's too good. We can't lose that scene. And also apparently when the other tangent going on where McCoy, Scotty, and Sulu are out in search of to get their plexiglass for the tank. And they're walking along, and at one point where George Takei is peeking inside a window to look around, and they did that a few times. And inside there's like, hi, and somebody in there, some gal in their way. The third time, it's like, hi, and it's like, it's like, okay. San Francisco, gotta love it. Yeah, I actually, sent a letter to Urban Curtis because I'd seen her at StarCon earlier. Because she was not a big fan. She wasn't steeped in the lore. And I sent her a fan letter to point out, like, no, okay, because I knew they're going to bring her back at some point. To keep in mind that the difference between Vulcans and Romulans, and where I think they kind of miss a bit in Star Trek 3, where they had Saavik full on Vulcan mode. It's like, they're beasts, because in the novelization when they killed David, she lost it. She was fighting with him being held down by the so she. But he really wanted to push Vulcan. He drier. But yeah, they never quite understood. The ship has always been viewed as a character in its own right. In fact, back in the day, if you ever get there's an old Valentine paperback, Letters to Star Trek, and it goes to this, and they did get requested. Can we get an autographed picture of the Enterprise? Okay, well, the little the 3-foot Enterprise in front of the Blues, and I recognize the handwriting. B. Joe Trimble wrote the thing. Best wishes, USS Enterprise. But yeah, pointing out that when nobody cared when the JJ prize exploded, I think yes, kill that ship. It's ugly. And it's like, well, we'll get to that. I think probably in a future. I don't want to. I just want to handle the original movies right now, and slight overlap with next gen, but mostly focus on the movies at the time. Go up through 6. So 3 comes out, does the thing. Then 4 comes out. They get everyone back together. Put them on a ship. Okay, great. And then we get, Shatner said, hey, we're a little reciprocity. Because Nimoy's gotten 2. When do I get to do 1? Because this has been something that's simmering. Because Shatner was supposed to direct the final episode of the original series in the 3rd season. But the network dropped the option on the last 2 episodes, so they never got made. He didn't get a shot. So that's been simmering in the back of his mind for, at this point, 20 years, just about. So along comes 5. And one of the things, with 4, because of the comedic elements of it, it was a crossover film because it was funny. And they had the fish out of water story going on, so lots of laughs. Shatner wants to do the story about, the ultimate questions here, life, death, and the Enterprise goes and meets God type of thing, which didn't sit well with Roddenberry because he had pitched that story way back when, and they didn't want to. No, you can't really do that. You can't be God. And that's it eventually morphed into the motion picture. But the story of the God thing, I think, is out there, and that's what he pitched originally. He had a line from, it wasn't Spock, but some Vulcan character. It's like, here, you have a supreme being which creates inferior beings and blames them for his own mistakes. So, which is something he had. Was from his lecture series, actually, back in the 70s. But Shatner gets his pitch, and there's, okay, can you make it funny? Like, Enterprise goes meets God, and it's a feel-good comedy hit. Like, okay, well, again, Shatner really wants the job, so okay, we'll give it a shot. I think the best way to view that one, by the way, there's a outfit that did a fan film version of Mystery Science Theater 3000, where they're doing what actually the real guys wish they could have done, is roast Star Trek 5. Have that as their movie. And I thought it, I wasn't familiar with what the original show was, so I thought it was the Oscars, but no. But I got a copy of it. I think I might throw a link in the description for a link to it, because that's got it up on links. So yeah, download it here, free. A lot of good gags on it, but that's really the best way to watch that movie. That's with the MST3K treatment. And that one was the first real flop. It set record. It won the weekend. They may even set a record for the opening. But once it became, this is stupid. It's not dull. it picks a lot. Shatner's direction is not the problem there. It's the story and the and really shoddy effects. So ILM wasn't available. I think they were doing Last Crusade at that point and other stuff. So they weren't available, and they got some outfit out of New Jersey, and they were not up to the job. It's like, I think at one point they spray painted the side of the ship gray or something. It's like you ruined that. The ship, the paint job had already been altered a bit because when they started using a blue screen for the effects, that pearlescent job was a problem, so they had to dull it up enough so you could use a blue screen. These guys are, just took a spray can to it. So that poor model needs some serious cleanup at this point. But they were not up for it. They were not up for that job at all, and it showed. And that was a storyline that needed heavy effects to pull off, and they didn't get them. And again, this was where suddenly it's now fashionable to bash on Shatner. Now that the Golden Boys finally stumbled, now we can dogpile on him and tell him what a piece of shit he was all these years, and complain about shit going back to the series, whether or not it really happened or not. And certainly they didn't feel about it that back then. But again, bringing up that Trek cruise where they're going through a Bash Shatner session. Majel Barrett's holding court on that, and Walter Koenig's just there trying to rest up after a heart attack he just had. What was that?
What?
That thumping.
Oh, that was me just letting the little cross goblins know to not use the hallways as their own.
Oh, whatever. God, get over yourself. But no, and the door is step bump onto the wall because kids are running the hallway. Might not even put them in upstairs for all you know. Come on. Anyway. But now something thing is major. And turn to Walter. Well, Walter, you were there. What do you think? And Walter can't just sort of look. Even if it happened the way you say it did, we didn't say anything about it now, so we really shouldn't have the right to say anything about it. We didn't say anything about it then. We don't really have a right to say anything about it now. They're sat back. Magel's jaw hits the floor. The crowd goes nuts. This is on a cruise ship, so they can't run anywhere. And this has been addressed ever since then. There was the trying to make out by Shatner some kind of line stealing hog. I don't know about Alan Alda there, but I have to look into that one. But basically, again, it goes back to the when Roddenberry had to write that, reading Shatner, Nimoy, and Kelly the Riot Act on things like these guys are, they're working, they're trying to make it trying to bring in the front and make sure there's a good product and get the story going, because we ain't got time for this, these shenanigans out here. And they're stomping all over everybody else's lines in the process and not really thinking about it. They're just thinking about, hey, we don't need this stuff. We got to get on with it. And it's sort of thing. It's like, and I like Shatner's theory because back in the day they didn't complain because then they were bit players and they knew they were bit players. They're all there maybe 1 or 2 days, do their bit, and they're off to somewhere else doing another guest shot on somebody else's show. I mean, Nichelle Nichols had 2 episodes on Tarzan. Tarzan was Star Trek's lead-in. So depending on when those episodes aired, you could have had 2 hours of Nichelle Nichols playing some African queen on Tarzan, and then Uhura on Star Trek. I have to check the lineup there, but see when her episodes aired on Tarzan and what would the episode of Star Trek that night. That's the thing. Check IMDb and look at all of their IMDb listings between the years of 66 and 69. And you'll see, no, they were not exclusive to Star Trek. I mean, George Takei showed up on Courtship of Eddie's Father a few times. He had the least number, because he was very picky with his roles. He wanted to make sure he was going to stay. He wasn't going to play any hop sing stuff. He was going to, the rest of them, they're getting work all over the place. Even Jimmy Doohan. But now, But his theory is that the conventions, where before that, yeah, they're bit players that sporting cast, but suddenly fans go, "Oh, you are my favorite, George. You were my favorite, James. You should have been the captain." And eventually it starts going, "Yeah, I should have had more thing. And of course, as big an egomaniac as George Takei is, he really soaked it up. I think that's why he's pushing the behind the scenes. He wanted a Captain Sulu show, and they had a few references here and there, but for whatever reason, they, like back in Star Trek 2, there was supposed to be a reference where Sulu was going to get, doing this thing right before he was about to assume command of the Excelsior. It got cut. Takei says because Shatner muffed the line so much it was unusable, but I think it's just it's a sidetrack. We got no time. We got to running time. We have no time for this stuff. It's a side issue. No one cares. And even Shatner at some point he kept pushing it. When am I going to get the Excelsior? And your point, George, if you get your own ship, you're off the show. You're no longer a regular. But again, with 5, nothing that they did the special edition. Some were director's editions where the director and put a few things back in here and there. There really wasn't one for 5 because it's like even Shatner's kind of like, yeah, I kind of screwed the pooch on that one. And some of it was my fault, but because it was his first movie, he didn't put his foot down as strong as he probably should have if he had a bigger resume as a director. But the movie is what it is. It's it's out there. I kind of go with the even Roddenberry said it's apocryphal. It's like didn't really happen like that. I go with the theory that what we saw was a drunken ghost story told around the campfire after a few more helpings of McCoy's secret ingredient with the beans, which and also kind of tracks if you think about it. It gets weirder and weirder the more they go into it. Which means and I wanted to at one point do a drunken commentary with Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. And then she's a princess. Vulcan had no really. Shut up, Spock. And by the time they get to the planet of Shakari and they're meeting God and whatever else, and at this point, what? God went with a starship. God damn it! It's like, Captain, you're a beam. Shut up, Spock. I got my question here. What the fuck? And just go nuts. McCoy and Kirk are just falling down at this point, slurring everything, and Spock's like, I feel about to apologize for the conduct of my fellow officers. But okay, 5 comes out. It kind of dies there, and under normal circumstances, that could be the death of the entire frame. Okay, that's it. They're done. No one cares anymore. But you got the 25th anniversary coming up. You got to do something. That's probably what saved. Then we took back one last time, and this time we're not going to take any chances. We're going to get Nick Meyer back. Nimoy's going to be, producing this thing. So, unfortunately, everything Goldsmith got to do the soundtrack on the odd. They should have gotten him back for 6. I think he may not have been available for 6. I'm not sure. I'm still not entirely sold on the soundtrack for 6 as it is, but they get that thing and they play it off of because Chernobyl happened a few years earlier. I mean, that was in 85, 86. I was in England at the time, and considering the build-up time, when these things happen, because I actually got a copy of Star Trek, the script for Star Trek 4 when I was there. It sold at a local comic shop in Ipswich. But Chernobyl hadn't been that many years before, and it signaled that things were falling apart on the other side of the Iron Curtain. And so they used that as a bouncing off point. Well, something happened similar in the Klingons. One of their big power plants goes bluey, causes problems, and they have to actually reach out for help. And they go on, and by this point, Next Generation had started in 87. And so now we're overlapping here. And now Roddenberry is actually in a position of some authority. Now, he's not just the executive consultant. That's all they have in the movies, but now he has a little more of a voice here because he's actually running his side of Star Trek, and that's why he said, he was able to position to say Star Trek V was apocryphal, and the opening log entry for the episode Sarek kind of debunks a large chunk of the Final Frontier, in Picard mentioning that like Sarek's first wife, Perrin is human. So that kind of blows the whole thing of the Vulcan princess storyline out of the water. So, well, that didn't even happen. So, and that's why, again, if you only wanted to just think, they're just telling a ghost story. It's another one of the rituals Spock wanted to partake in related to camping out, telling a ghost story around the fire. So, but 6 comes out, they do their thing. And again, this point now, Roddenberry is in a little more control here, but also by this point, his health is deteriorating. He was already blind in one eye. He was developing water on the brain, which is part of why the cognitive things are falling. But he was, he and Nick Meyer locked horns on a few things. Like, he really objected to them when Kirk gives the command for right standard rudder. And this also bugged me, frankly. It's like, same thing. Starships don't have rudders. Find another term, okay? It's like, but they go through, and they did manage to back him off on a few things. They wanted to have Savick as the officer that turncoat, but no, Savick is a beloved character now. We don't come up with something, and that's why they brought in Valeris. So there's a few points that Roddenberry won on that one. But again, he wouldn't have got that if he was still back home with Nagel around the pool. It's like he's over there in the lot, over in the building. Goes on. So they had black horns several times on some points. So, but Roddenberry did mention one if you wanted. But then they did screen it for him shortly before the release. And it's questionable how, because he's probably blind in one eye at one point. He's in a wheelchair, and some kind of get together around the pool. And someone, what how's the new movies? Or, So I was like, it's okay. It's there. Kids are, And it came out, and where there were some problems, they kind of, Roddenberry was right on that one. That's the point where they should have listened to him. But again, by this point, Next Generation is setting the world on fire. As the biggest show in first run syndication. That's where you had, Michael Dorn showing up as, Colonel Worf, Lieutenant Worf's grandfather. And again, the whole point of the signatures at the end, that's it. We're done. This is the final original series cast film. That's why they're all the signatures. They're signing off on it. We're done. This is our finale that we never got back in the day. So I think on that point, we will wrap it for now on the discussion. I think I might start another one right after this so we can have the discussion going. But I want to nail this one as this is the video. So I will be right back. For everyone else who's watching this later, we will talk at you later.